the regime. I mean, the proxy groups are not that as important right now because Israel managed to weaken them to the point where they serve as no deterrence for the Islamic Republic. Hamas has been decapitated. Hezbollah has been decapitated. The Houthis have been decapitated. Hash Shabi just came out and said that they're not going to participate in the war if the Islamic Republic and United States go to war with each other. So the right now the proxies are not any major deterrence for the Islamic Republic. The nuclear, well, the Islamic Republic doesn't have a nuclear weapon yet, so it's not that much of a deterrence other than, oh, we will continue to enrich, and if you want us to not, then you have to give like it's not an immediate threat. Right now the only thing that the Islamic Republic really actually has when it comes to trying to defend itself, is the ballistic missiles. It's basically that and nothing else. Closing the Hormuz Strait as a deterrence is a joke. It's not a real threat. It's actually suicide for the Islamic Republic itself. It will get China also against the Islamic Republic. It will basically cut out their own revenue and will make them collapse immediately. So it's just the ballistic missiles. And if Khamenei agrees to reduce the range of the ballistic missiles to 300 kilometers as they want, that is basically the same as the regime falling, because then United States doesn't even have to attack at all. They could just sit back and then watch Israel to just finish the job. If we get to a point where we could, through negotiations, get the Islamic Republic to reduce the range of their ballistic missiles, that means that they cannot reach Israel. That means that Israel is basically, it's like fighting a baby, right? Like they could just do whatever they want. So basically, if that ever happens, United States has managed to get the Islamic Republic to become completely defenseless without even shooting a missile. Basically, United States has managed to topple the Islamic Republic without using their military, which would be amazing. So that is why the Islamic Republic will probably never agree to this. And even if they do, that would be the end of them, right? So that would be that would be the most beautiful situation for United States, because then Islamic Republic and United States have an agreement. United States says we won't attack. You don't have any missiles with long range, and then United States would sit back and like, I'm not going to attack you. We have an agreement. But Israel will come in and say, well, I don't have an agreement with you, and you don't have any missiles, so I'm just going to come and fuck you up, and there's nothing you could do about it. And then after that, the Iranian people could finish the job. And then the only deterrence capability the Islamic Republic would have at that point would be to bomb Dubai, Saudi Arabia, and sorry, the UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar, which then the United States could say, well, if you do that, then I will get involved. United States could sit back and be like, Israel and Islamic Republic are having a war, has nothing to do with me. Israel's like, well, of course I'm going to have a war. They don't have any missiles, and they're my main enemy. Why wouldn't I attack them right now? And the United States could just sit back with all of its military assets in the region and be like, I dare you shoot a single missile at Saudi Arabia, UAE, or Qatar. I have all my military assets over here, and the Islamic Republic would have to knows that if I attack these countries to try to deter a war, first of all, that's not going to deter Israel, but it's only going to give United States permission to then participate and join in, because that was not part of their agreement. So this would be the most ideal situation for the United States, because then the United States could go and claim to the world that, listen, look at what I did. I defanged the Islamic Republic and I didn't even shoot a missile. So that would be the most ultimate win for United States. I'm not saying this will happen, but anything in between is beautiful. Anything in between is good. So anything you could get from the Islamic Republic before you have a war scenario is basically weakening the Islamic Republic before you have a war. And on top of that, Trump is basically trying to suffocate the Islamic Republic right now by reducing its ability to sell oil to India and China, means that every day that goes by, they're having less USD to buy weapons or to give to their proxies or to suppress the Iranian people. So the more they delay this, the weaker Islamic Republic they have to fight. It used to be that the Islamic Republic used to use negotiations to buy time to grow before a war. But now the United States is doing the same thing with the Islamic Republic. They're buying time because as time goes by, they're getting weaker rather than stronger. All right, so let's go. Who? But guys, please ask your questions regarding this or any other topic. It doesn't have to be about this. It could be about Islam. It could be about Turkey. It could be about what happened in Australia regarding the police finally having some balls and basically going out, clearing the streets because from these Muslims praying in the middle of the street. That was something beautiful to see that we finally saw from Australia that we could be proud of. Finally, once something happened in Australia regarding Islamists that we could celebrate. So it could be about that. I also would be interested in talking about why Turkey would be like the Turkish government will get challenged from an Islamic perspective if the Islamic Republic falls, and that why they would consider this Erdogan would consider this a disaster. So we could talk about that as well. All right, so BT, whose hands are
Before we go to the list, many people in chat have not heard about what happened in Australia. Would you mind giving us an update?
Oh yeah, so in Australia, what happened is that they brought in the police. There's like some really beautiful videos of it. Maybe I should go find it and we could share it, or if somebody else wants to find them and share them. Because what Muslims usually do is that they like to come out and have a big crowd of Muslims praying outside in the streets and block traffic while they're praying, even though they have mosques and they could do it there. They like to come out and basically block people and disrupt their traffic and pedestrians and just show their presence as a way to intimidate, as a way to show their presence, as a way to show their numbers, and as a way to basically intimidate. And it's a show of force. And it also shows that we're here and your society now belongs to us. And usually, what happens in Western countries that the governments there tolerate this, they allow it, they even cooperate with them, and people in these Western cities usually find it frustrating. But now, what we saw from Australia, I forgot which city, I could look it up. But the police was like, while they were praying, the police was coming and they were basically pulling them from the prayer while they were praying, and the Muslims were going crazy. They were getting their hands on them and they were moving them, trying to clear the way. And it was a beautiful sight to see, finally showing some backbone and actually standing against this Islamization. And I saw many people online celebrating that. So that is something that hopefully we'll see more of. Yeah.
I wonder if that would be good for the Zabiba, or could potentially the road kind of shave it off like when you get a pedicure and they like scrape your heels. I wonder if it might take the Zabiba away. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Johan?
Yeah, hello. First of all, thanks for giving this opportunity. I've been watching this for a while and learned a lot. So I just want to begin there saying that really appreciate it. I have a couple of questions, but I'm just going to grab the first one. I was wondering about the non-Iranian groups that have been coming into or letting into Iran to fight the anti-regime protests. I've just heard that they mainly from Iraq and Syria. Do we know what groups these are, and have they been identified? Will it be possible to bring them to justice one day, or are they just like masked or whatever?
It's a very good question. So, guys, for people who might not know the context, during the early January protests that we were having in Iran as part of the Lion and Sun revolution and the massacre that happened, we saw that the Islamic Republic brought people from outside of Iran, from their terrorist Shia proxy groups, to come in and kill the Iranians, massacre the Iranian people in the tens of thousands. And the fact that they did that suggests that they didn't have enough people to kill Iranians themselves, which might also suggest that many of the regime forces probably were not willing to shoot at Iranians. So Iranians were not willing to shoot at Iranians, and that's why they had to bring people from outside. The groups have been identified as Hashd Shabi from Iraq, otherwise known by English speaking people as the Popular Mobilization Front from Iraq, Zainabiyun from Pakistan, and Fatimiyun from Afghanistan. So these are all Shia militant terrorist groups that are considered to be proxies of the Islamic Republic. And regarding bringing them justice, so I mean, just to be clear, we're talking about after the Islamic Republic falls. Is that what you're talking about? Okay, yes. So this is something, it's interesting that you say that, because this is something that people don't talk about, and I've been talking about it here and also on my Persian show, regarding that we need to follow the Jewish model, because after the Holocaust and the fall of Nazi Germany, when the Jews managed to finally make Israel, get the Israel as their country, that was, they started hunting down Nazis all around the world. They went and found the people who were responsible for killing them, and brought them to justice by either killing them where they are or bringing them to Israel and basically executing them there. And I think we need to be doing the same thing. Like, I think we should be doing the same thing. I think we should, the future government of Iran should be, once we get to a stable situation, once we finally bring the Artesh to the glory that it once has, and once we bring back Savak as our intelligence agency, we should be working, our Artesh should be working with the IDF, and our Savak should be working with Mossad, and we should be hunting down these terrorists all over the Middle East. We should be hunting down all of the members of Zainabiyun, all of the members of Fatimiyun, all of the members of Hash Shabi, and even cooperating with the Israelis to go after all of the other terrorist groups against Israel as well. This serves two purposes. We will be working with Israel to bring stability into the Middle East by cooperating with them in crushing these terrorist cells everywhere in the Middle East, but also to bring justice and hunt down the people who were responsible for killing Iranians. I think that any single person that had ever been a member of any of these groups should be considered an enemy and eliminated wherever they are. We should make it so that these groups we should make it so that these groups never even existed. Every single member of these groups should be completely eliminated. I think that should be the goal of our future government. And I think many Iranians would agree, and they would not want nothing less. Do you have any follow up, or did I answer your question?
That answered my question very well.
Mm.
Thank you. One would hope
Yeah.
that when the Iranians can rebuild the country, that will have a good spillover effect into the regions, and that also when they have the support with weapons and money from the regime, that it would be easier to follow up on that. Yeah, thank you very much. Excellent answer.
Yeah. I mean, imagine all the oil and gas of Iran right now is being sold and spent on terrorism. Imagine not only that stopping, but the oil and gas money of Iran being sold and the revenue of that then being spent on bringing stability to the Middle East and fighting terrorism. So a lot of people think like, oh, when the Islamic Republic falls, we will lose a major great sponsor of terror. But I think that's just half of it. It's not just that we will be losing a major sponsor of terror. The same revenue now is going to be spent in fighting terrorism. And a lot of people are missing the other half of that we will be having a military that is fighting terrorism in the region. So people need to take that into account as well.
Okay, next we have a question from the chat. If no deal is reached and no military action is taken, if any idea of how long the regime can survive with sanctions and tariffs alone?
All right. So we're talking about a situation where Trump and the Islamic Republic negotiations fail and we have no deal, but at the same time, Trump is not going to do a military attack on the Islamic Republic. Neither Trump or Israel. Are we talking about no war? Okay, no war at all. All right, so BT is saying if, because this is a big if, okay? Everything is possible, nothing is 100%. The reason why this is a big if is because I haven't seen a single analyst suggest that there is not going to be at least some sort of military action. Again, everything is possible, but the disagreements between analysts seems to be how big the military attack is going to be, there seems to be close to unanimous agreement that there is going to be war. Again, if it doesn't happen, don't come fighting me. I'm just noticing that everybody, like American analysts, Israeli analysts, the Iranian opposition analysts, and the Islamic Republic's own analysts, they all saying, "Yep, war is coming." So if they're all wrong, that would be very interesting. Okay, because everybody seems to be on the same page of this. But if hypothetically, there is no war and there is no agreement, are we talking the sanctions? Of course, the sanctions. So, guys, so the economic situation of the Islamic Republic is getting worse and worse every day, and the European countries has now classified the IRGC as a terrorist group, meaning that if you are connected with trading with them, you don't get fined anymore. You might actually get prison sentence, and businesses are very risk averse when it comes to actually jail time. Sometimes even if you have fines for dealing with anything IRGC related, some businesses calculate the potential of giving that fine. So if we do this deal, there's a 10% chance that we might get a fine, and this is the fine. So 10% of that fine is this much, is worth, given that the profit is this much, the profit is more than that fine, the 10% of that fine, so it's worth it, and they will still do businesses with IRGC related entities. However, once you categorize the IRGC by European country, by the EU, all EU countries have now categorized it as a terrorist group. That means that you could go to jail. And yeah, businesses are very risk averse when it comes to that. So they're not going to be touching anything IRGC related with a 10-foot pole. And that means that the Islamic Republic is going to, but when we say IRGC is a terrorist group, that means everything Islamic Republic related is now terrorist related. Okay, because everything within the Islamic Republic is somehow connected to IRGC. That means that businesses would not want to do, like many businesses around the world, even Chinese companies would not want to be do business with the Islamic Republic companies anymore, right? This is really going to isolate the Islamic Republic in a way that they have never experienced. Like now that we have Venezuela, Venezuela is oil and gas on the market as well, uh, because of the fall of Maduro. Now that India has agreed to buy oil and gas from Venezuela instead of the Islamic Republic, um, and this is the now that the Islamic Republic is already finding it very difficult to get its hands on enough US dollars. They're just in a free fall right now. So without a war, the fall of the Islamic Republic is going to get delayed and more costly. But also remember that Khamenei is like close to 90 years old now, and sooner or later he's going to die. So with this level of isolation and this many Iranians wanting the Islamic Republic to fall, and this level of bankruptcy, and the fact that Khamenei doesn't really have a clear successor, and there's right now a lot of internal battles within the Islamic Republic over what happens after the death of Khamenei, the instability is to the point where the Islamic Republic is going to fall, right? I mean, the support for the Islamic Republic is also, in my opinion, below 5% and falling. So, falling support, millions of people wanting everybody that within the Islamic Republic dead, becoming more isolated and bankrupt, and succession, basically not having any plan for a succession, and a power vacuum and internal fights within the regime people itself. The regime is going to fall one way or another. It's just a matter of when, not a matter of if. But exactly how long it's going to take without an attack is going to take longer than what people want. I don't know exactly how long, but probably longer than some people anticipate, but it will fall eventually within our lifetime.
Okay, next we have Amy.
Can you hear me?
Amy. Yes.
Okay. My question is both for Armin and Jeffrey, as usual. When we're talking about war criminals and the IRGC war criminals after the fall, getting out of Iran and being absorbed into neighboring countries and eventually setting off to other places to kind of hide in plain sight, the way that the Nazis did after World War II, and how like a lot of them went into Argentina and were absorbed in there and just kind of blended in and nobody noticed them. What are the chances that some of those bad actors will end up in the United States, blending into these communities? There's a lot of Arab, Muslim majority communities within the United States. What is the likelihood of some of them being absorbed into the United States or Canada or anything like that?
I think much less than before, given that how much more sophisticated intelligence of different countries are, being able to track these people. It's not like before, you can't easily just change your name. You can't just, like, there's social media, everybody has a camera. These people are already documented. Every single person that works for the Islamic Republic, like in all of the higher up people, their profile is very clear, their movements are being observed. I mean, these people can't even breathe without the Mossad not noticing, right? You know what I mean? Like the Mossad, like during the 12-day war, we saw Mossad knew exactly where these people meet. For example, during the 12-day war, they knew even when one person was a little bit late in one of the meetings. So they hold off the attack until he shows up. During the 12-day war, Mossad actually managed to arrange one of the meetings. Like during, I don't know. Like during, like, I mean, was it before the during the 12th war or before it? So Mossad actually managed to arrange a meeting between the commanders so that they could bomb it. Some of the top commanders of IRGC were in a meeting that was planned and organized by Mossad. And they were attending it so that they could get bombed. That's a level of sophistication and intelligence that means that, I mean, and they're doing that, they're tracking them in Iran. Like, if they could track them this well inside Iran, imagine how well they could track them in Western countries or in America, right? So, I mean, everybody has a camera now. There's security cameras everywhere. People have their phones. People are posting, exposing each other, their social media. And there's also a lot of Iranians are everywhere, right? And Iranians will be hunting these people down and trying to expose them wherever they are, right? So the diaspora is going to try to make sure that these people don't get away. So that's a lot of free foot soldiers for countries. So even if you're, like, for example, let's go to, I don't know, Argentina, and we like, oh, the police is doing a poor job, they're tracking these people down. Well, the Iranian people in Argentina, they're going to track them down, right? And they're going to take pictures and report them to the police, right? So because the Iranian people really want these people to be brought to justice, so you could basically expect a 10 million person army of Iranians all around the world hunting these people down and trying to pass on the information to the governments of those countries, or to Mossad, or to the United States. So I think it's going to be very, and honestly, I wouldn't mind them being able to get away because they would not be getting good sleep. In fact, I probably prefer them being able to get away for a few years because they have to look over their shoulder every single day. They have to sleep at night not knowing if somebody knows where they are. So even if they don't go to jail for a while, I think every single day outside of prison is going to be torture for them, not knowing when is going to be the day that somebody's going to be knocking on the door telling them that they're arrested and they're going to go to jail. So let them live in their hell, whether they're in prison or outside of a prison. That's going to be hell for them. So I think it's going to be a prison even outside of prison borders. It's its own type of prison. So yeah, that's my. Did I? Oh, Jeffrey, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, as usual, you touched on a lot of the key points, right? So there's already elements of the IRGC and Mullah regime, thanks to the previous administration and Hezbollah here in America. So we're already fleshing them out. This administration is very actively pursuing the quote unquote worst first with regards to ICE and all the rest of it. Actually, ICE was created after the terrorist attack of September 11th because of that threat. So there's elements there. There's definitely a demographic that they're going to probably try to hide amongst, although they also, I mean, the IRGC are a bunch of thugs who very much are used to living high on the hog. So they're not used to living poor. Maybe they choose to do so to try and meld into the background or something. Armin's not wrong, though. right? I mean, there's a reason that President Trump said, make sure you document everybody who's done things. It's not just for us, it also serves for the broader Iranian and or Persian diaspora. The very things you'd use to help our intelligence also helps those people. And you kind of go, wow. I mean, how do I put this? There's three types of law. You have God's law, you have man's law, and then you have natural law. And if God or man's law somehow is not being as forthright with dispensing justice, people pursue natural law. Like when, say, brave Persians inside Iran go, really tired of these mullah fuckers killing my friends. And then they just put a particular, like painted a particular, symbol on, say, IRGC or mullah people's homes. You actually mentioned that, Armin, you and Goldie, remember, about 20 years ago. There's a reason they did that. It's a way of saying we know exactly where you live, we know who you are, and sooner or later, justice is coming to you. That's what that means, right? So Armin's not wrong. I will add this, though, to the question regarding like strikes and not strikes. The administration is currently in the process of finalizing sending yet another carrier battle group to the Middle East. Again, it's because you got the mullahs dispersing and building up their capability. You have Chicoms and Putin and elements of Pakistan, North Korea assisting them. And you have us in Israel that are setting up our strike ability, right? So people are both sides are trying to get to the point where they can give the other person a knockout blow. Armin is again correct. Every analyst, this one included, whether, and particularly if you'd like, General Keane, said it very concisely this morning on Fox, which is, it doesn't matter, like everybody understands, it doesn't matter what agreement this mullah regime agrees to. Everybody knows they're just trying to find a way to get more time to cross the asymmetric deterrence threshold defined as possession of ballistic missiles and nuclear weapons. Nobody believes that they're honestly going to give them up. I promise you, the signaling we're getting from Israel is, regardless of what we do, they're getting ready to clean their clock, which is why Bibi and Trump are meeting right now. There's a reason they're having that discussion, I would contend.
I agree with what Jeffrey said. Just as an atheist, I have to say I only believe in man's law. Just different men are like, I don't believe in natural law or God's law.
Okay, next we have Babak.
Babak, what's your question?
Sorry, don't have a question, just have a statement.
Questions only.
Okay, then it's not a question. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. No, you just keep it short then if it's not a question, but then we'll go to next.
I can do that, but it's just, don't hate me, okay? I know it's a really, really bad birthday, but it's my birthday today. And
okay. Happy birthday then. Sorry. Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
Love you, brother. And it was 1979. I was born exactly the fucking day those motherfucking mullahs came to power. Okay. Don't hate me because of it, okay? It's not my fault, okay? God made that birthday for me. But damn it, this fucking country will be free! Johnny Shaw!
All right, Joey Shaw. And happy birthday, Joey Shaw, and happy birthday. Thank you, Babak. All right.
I think that kind of explains why Babak is a little crazy, though. Okay. Right. We have Daniel Dome.
Who's next? Who?
Daniel Dome.
Hi,
Daniel.
Good evening. Also, happy birthday, Babak. My question is...
Next, we move on to Eric.
Hello, everyone. I just have a question regarding like the, if this, if the deal or if the strikes, if it takes a long time, what do you guys see in terms of like food supplies and all of that inside of Iran? Is that like stable without, foreign trade and such?
Well, I mean, everything is getting more and more expensive
Yeah,
because and people's access to food and supplies are getting lower and lower. I mean, even before this, people were posting pictures of their fridges and how empty it is inside Iran, which means that like so many people are losing so much that it just means that another wave of this revolution will happen sooner or later, whether United States attacks or not.
yeah.
So right before any of all of this happened, people, because of the drop in the value of the currency and the reduction in people's purchasing power, so many people were really having struggle, like were really struggling to make ends meet. And just now, it has even like just more recently, even after the early January massacre, the price of real has even dropped a lot even more. Everything is falling and crashing, and this suggests that, just like, I mean, we, by the way, predicted that this revolution will happen. Remember, after the master revolution, so many people were saying like, well, it's over, Iranian people are not coming out. They saw that that didn't end the regime, so it's over. And I was telling you guys on the Atheist Republic channel that nope, it will happen. They're just looking for the right time, they're looking for the right spark. And it happened eventually. And I mentioned everybody is going, every time like it happens, like it becomes bigger than the last time, like it becomes more significant than the last time. So eventually it did happen, and I could tell you now that it will happen again. And because for many people, life is becoming unbearable under living under these conditions. And now it's not just economic conditions, but also, given that the Islamic Republic has killed so many Iranians, for a lot of people this is more about, this is not just about economic conditions, it's about not accepting this level of cruelty and this level of oppression.
And I know
So
like it's very expensive. I'm worried about because I have some relatives in Iran and they've obviously told me that everything is very, very expensive. But like, is the supply lines stable into
well, supply
Iran or?
well, supply and price are connected, right? So when you say prices are rising, is basically the same thing as saying supplies are low. That's the same thing, you know, because the less supply that you have for goods, the less of them are out there, the higher prices they will be, and less accessible to people they will become. Like it's not like something will be completely zero, right? It will just be so little of it left that the amount that is there will be extremely expensive. So,
Yeah,
I mean, I guess because I was just like looking at it from an economic perspective. To me, when I say high prices, it's almost the same as saying low supply. That's why when you ask about supply, I was talking about prices. Do you know
yeah.
what? You
I,
understand
I,
what?
I could have. I mean, I could have phrased it better because how much of its own food does Iran produce? That's a better question, actually.
So, see, as a free market capitalist, is Samantha here? If she wants to give me a thumbs down, as a free market capitalist, like when you say your own, how much of your own food do you produce? Even if you produce some of your food, if you have less fruit from outside, the way you should be looking at it is the total supply of food. Let's say, for example, you're making a lot of your food yourself. If nobody's buying that, for like, if you are not trading with other people, that food will be more expensive because the supply that you need for growing that food, less access to water, less access to farming machinery, not having enough access to stable markets outside, and just trying to be self sufficient, it just makes everything less productive. And the fact that I don't know how to explain this without doing an economic crash course, right? Like for example, a lot of let me for example, like let me just give you one example, right? So because the Islamic Republic has trying to become self-sufficient and self-reliant when it comes to food supply, they have actually made food less accessible and more expensive, right? So like in an ideal situation, you would be focusing on the type of food that makes sense. The free markets will basically determine what food would be best to be produced in Iran, and the other food will be imported from outside, right? But the Islamic Republic tried to get to a position where it grows and makes the food that Iranian people eat. And that has actually made it very difficult to have like a stable food supply, because the food that Iranian people, for example, eat is the food that is very requires a lot of water to grow, right? So in an ideal situation, Iran would be growing the food that other people eat outside of Iran at a higher price, and then import the food that Iranian people eat, like rice, for example. Right? But it didn't do that. It said like, oh, Iranian people eat a lot of rice, so we grow rice. And then rice requires, for example, a lot of water, and Iran is now low on water. So like part of the water crisis that we have right now is because in Iran they're growing a lot of rice and a lot of watermelon, but during the Shah time we were growing food that was not part of the Iranian diet, but it was very expensive and foreigners would pay a lot for it, and then with that money we could have bought a lot more rice and watermelon, right? So when because of this attempt to be self-reliant and not requiring imported food, we actually have less food, we have a water crisis, and we have people not being able to even afford the food that we make inside Iran. Like I don't know if I no country could become self-reliant without destroying the supply and demand balance.
But I
Ah,
get what you mean.
I'm just saying self-reliance and trying to rely on the food that you make instead of tapping into the global market is what causes food shortages and or high prices
Yeah,
and less productivity. So
yeah,
yes, they grow a lot of their food themselves, but there are more people than there is food to be produced, the food that they
yeah.
can produce. And because a lot of the food that they produce inside Iran relies on a lot of water, right? And because of the shortage of water, that food is now very expensive and not accessible to a lot of Iranians, right?
Okay, next we have Payman.
Payment.
Everyone. Have you ever had any problem with the connection to this website or anything else? Because some weird stuff actually is happening. In Sweden, I cannot probably connect to school.com, and all
Oh,
the time is gonna disconnected, and also all the chat, it says the content is not available for your country, which is not happened before.
really?
And
Okay, I will report this to the.
yeah,
Is anybody else having this problem? No. Okay. All right. So I will report this, but send me a message regarding this. But right now, let's focus on your question.
yeah, sure. Thank you.
Oh,
That was
what question? Oh,
okay. So
thank you for the report.
I've got two questions to read from the chat. The first of which is, if the mullahs offer everything the US and Israel want, no nuclear program anymore, no ICBMs, no money for terror proxies, a deal will be made throwing the Iranians under the bus. Where am I wrong with those fears?
All right. So again, guys, we're talking about the negotiation between the United States and the Islamic Republic, and this is something a lot of people are worried about. And I'll tell you why it's not as worrying as some people think. Again, obviously everything is possible. So many Iranians, especially, want the United States to attack the Islamic Republic, especially after the massacre that they committed in early January. They think nothing less than regime change should be acceptable. And also, they blame some people are blaming Trump for basically being like Obama and Biden by even considering to do negotiations with the Islamic Republic. And they're like, don't be a Biden. don't be Obama, right? So they think like they might be being betrayed. But if we get to that position that you're like to a situation where the Islamic Republic agrees to the terms, and again, this is why we're calling it terms of surrender. If they agree to the terms that of Trump, if it's true, if actually Trump stays basically his condition, he doesn't change his conditions, and he basically insists on them and doesn't change them, and wouldn't accept anything other than 0% enrichment of uranium, or and also reduction in the range of the ballistic missiles. And if they give all of that to Trump, you're worried. You're saying you're worried that they're throwing the Iranian people under the bus. But in my opinion, if they do all of that, then they're sitting ducks for Israel to just come and take them out. Like, actually, that's a preferable outcome. That's a preferable outcome, because that would mean a quicker war, a more easier war would be able to take them out. I mean, just imagine for a second, just imagine with me, okay? Close your eyes, imagine with me. An Islamic Republic that has no enriched uranium and not enriching uranium anymore ever again, no missiles to throw at Israel, and I mean, even just that, then after that, Israel could just do whatever they want and with no consequences. And then after that, the Iranian people could do whatever they want with no consequences. Also, please understand that it's not just about agreement. How are you going to enforce this? How are you going to enforce 0% enrichment of uranium? Like, are we going to have Americans on Iranian soil just going to facilities just checking this? And how are we going to enforce a reduction in the range of the ballistic missiles? What enforcement mechanism are we talking about here? The enforcement mechanism, if this is actually applied, if this is actually enforced, is a level of humiliation for the IRGC and Khamenei that I do not see them ever accepting. And the only way that you could even imagine them accepting this, like Americans on Iranian soil going into military bases of IRGC and basically investigating every single missile that the Islamic Republic is producing, like that is unimaginable in my opinion. And it would require a degree of change in the identity of the IRGC, that is an IRGC, like American presence in Iran. That is an IRGC that has changed so much that their DNA, like you have to basically change their entire DNA for them to accept that level of American involvement and humiliation. And that is a world where I don't see even IRGC being able to shoot at the Iranian people. Like, that is a level of change where I would think that it would embolden the Iranian people to come back into the streets without fear. I mean, if there's international, because remember, the enforcement of 0% enrichment uranium requires the presence of American observers everywhere in Iran, not just like, oh, come, not like the joke that is the IAEA coming in, like, oh, just look over here in Natanz and also look here and nowhere else. Just trust us that we're not doing anything. Like, imagine the joke that it is, right? Like, guys, you want to check if we're doing enriching uranium? These are the areas that you can look, but you can't look anywhere else. And yeah, we're just trust us. We're just trust the idea that we're not enriching anywhere else. Okay, sure. If you want to enforce this, you require a presence all over Iran and access to every single military base. That is almost an invasion, right? That is basically troops on the ground with the invitation of the Islamic Republic. That is the degree of humiliation that we're talking about, the Islamic Republic. Any Islamic Republic that agrees to that is not the Islamic Republic that we're dealing with today. It's a pretending to be reformed version of the Islamic Republic that has surrendered to a degree that also would not be willing to be able to shoot at its own people, because it's trying to show a new image to the Americans and to the international world, to the international community. So if we get there, then there's nothing stopping Iranians to just march in every single government building and basically demand the return of Pahlavi. That is, and by the way, if the Islamic Republic agrees to any of this, we don't even need to topple the regime. The mullahs and the arzashis, I mean the religious nut jobs, will be beating us to it. They will basically be first in line trying to kill the regime leaders for humiliating the Islamic Republic to this point where they have agreed to all of this. The regime supporters will become enemy number one of Islamic Republic if they give in to this level of humiliation. So we don't even need to actually go into the streets for a while. We could just grab our popcorns and watch the regime eat itself from the inside before we get back into the streets and take down the regime. We will witness an internal civil war within the regime itself. So we just have to watch them destroy each other to the point that they're so weak that then we could go in and finish the job. That's why it's so unimaginable. The only here's the he, if you want to be afraid of a scenario which seems unlikely, the thing that some people are concerned about is the Islamic Republic not actually. This is the scenario that we should be trying to avoid. If the Islamic Republic gives them everything, that's the end of the regime. But the scenario that some people are worried about is the Islamic Republic just giving them a few things and Trump being satisfied with it anyways. That's the scenario that we need to be avoiding, right? If the Islamic Republic gives them everything they want and there is no war, it doesn't matter because the Islamic Republic has fallen without any war, anyways. I mean, Israel will do the war, right? But the situation is like some people are worried that Trump sometimes asks a lot and then he's satisfied with a lot less. And then he might go brag around acting like he got everything, even though he just got like a small percentage of what he was asking for. So the scenario that the Islamic Republic is trying to accomplish is to give Trump a win that is not really a win, but he could sell it as a win to his base. And a lot of people are trying to make sure that Trump doesn't do that. The one element here that makes that unlikely, not impossible, but unlikely, is Israel. Because Israel is not basically giving in. Israel is basically communicating to the White House that yeah, we are going to if you we are not going to let America. I mean, they're trying to phrase it in a different way, but because they don't want to, because a lot of anti-Israeli Americans are trying to make it look like Israel controls America. So, but in this situation, Israel can't allow the Islamic Republic get away with this. The win card that we have here is that Israel understands that this is an opportunity of a lifetime, and we can't allow, given how weak the Islamic Republic is, allowing it to survive this is a huge betrayal to Israeli people and their safety, given that they're this close to the edge of the cliff and they're about to collapse. Not pushing them all the way is a missed opportunity that the Israelis should never forgive their politicians if they allow the Islamic Republic to survive this. So Israel is trying to communicate to United States that we're going to go all in on this. So even if you don't have any agreements with the Islamic Republic that you're not going to attack, well, we have to attack, and America is going to be dragged into the war anyways because Israel is 100% certain that they want to basically end the Islamic Republic now and forever. But also the challenge for Israel is that they want to do this without giving ammunition to anti-Israeli Americans who say it's Israel who drags us into wars, right? And that's challenging to do. How do we communicate with the White House that there needs to be a war significant enough and that gets us to regime change, but also not make it seem like Israel is the one who's dragging America into war. And the way that you do that is that you don't ask United States for regime change. You ask the United States for the lower range of the ballistic missiles with the understanding that Khamenei would never agree to that. That's how you do it. That's how you ask for regime change without asking for regime change. You do it by insisting that Israel's red line is that any negotiation must have the reduction of the range of the ballistic missiles in it, or else it should not be accepted. And with the understanding that neither IRGC or Khamenei will accept that, you're basically asking for a war that does regime change.
Two more questions from the chat. So someone says, I heard from a high-level official in Israel that the IRGC has gotten much stronger missiles than they had in the 12-day war, and that had become a major concern. Do you know anything about this?
I will let Jeffrey respond to this because I think Jeffrey is a lot more informed about this topic.
It's true. So the Mullah regime is getting assistance, not the least of which is there's like what they call, what is it, planetary planar blenders. They're like really big blenders to like produce a lot of solid rocket fuel. Yeah, I mean, so Mullah regime's getting assistance from Putin, Xi, Pakistan, elements of Pakistan, North Koreans. North Koreans one of the biggest missile proliferators in the world, to bump up their long range or their medium and intermediate, short, intermediate, and medium range ballistic missiles. That's very true. That's why we're also moving more assets in the region. That's why I said it's like, it's a race. Armin's not wrong. I'm going to, again, bounce off what Armin said. I can say with a pretty high degree of human certainty, well, the highest degree of human certainty I possess, there's the highest degree of probability that Israel is not going to accept the Mullah regime existing anymore, because they know, right? They know the Mullah regime is trying to play this bullshit game, or well, maybe we'll give you a little bit over here, and then don't look over there. Yeah, nobody believes you. And even if the Mullah regime was able to sell that to the administration, which every analyst that I know and all the people that I know that have ties to the administration, none of them believe anything the Mullah regime is telling the administration. I mean, for good reason. Israel is going to probably, I can say with the highest degree of human certainty I possess, has the highest degree of probability that the state of Israel, particularly under Bibi, for good reason, is going to go, yep, don't give a fuck what anybody thinks about us. We're not going to die for your friggin' convenience. We're going to take our best shot. That's what I said in my threat, risk, and vulnerability assessment in late 2022. I said that there's going to come a time where the Mullah regime is going to get to a breakout point where Israel's going to tell everybody, including the State Department, doesn't matter how many crazy leftists are there, doesn't matter if they jump up and down and slap their pussy on the ground like a psychotic hour monkey. They don't give a fuck. They're not going to get vaporized for people's convenience. I'm sorry, BT. I know that was a little, I don't know how else to drive that point home, right? They're not going to die for people's political convenience, and they will go all in. Here's the problem with it. For this very same reason why Donald sent in the bombers he did in Operation Midnight Hammer, right? Israel has a very capable Air Force. There are things that the Mullah regime has buried and hardened that go beyond what the Israelis can deliver conventionally. They will indeed use unconventional means. I don't want to see that. Donald doesn't want to see that. Pretty much nobody wants to see that. Which kind of also underwrites Armin's point, though. That's one of your trump cards, because Israel's going to go like, we're not dying for you. We're not dying so people can not have to hear like some asshole talking head say something on Fox News. They're not doing that. It's the same reason why, when people say, well, how come Ukraine doesn't accept like Putin's crazy whatever? Because Putin's goal is to exterminate Ukrainians. They don't care if they're dead from an atomic bomb or a fucking caliber missile. They know the result is they're dead. They're not dying on their knees. That's when I was talking about God's law, man's law, natural law. And some people think that somehow man's law, where I did this legal thing and you can't do that, I'm gonna wag my finger. There comes a time where no one cares about that anymore, right? Just like why brave Persian protesters, like those attractive girls, when they put out their little sign, you remember that, Armin? When they're saying, we're hunting you down, they mean that shit. Well, how can they do that? Because they lost their whole fucking family to these violent, vile mullah bastards. and they don't give a shit about what the hell some asshole academician thinks about what they're going to do. They're looking for a little payback. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm sorry. Anyway, all that to say, I very much agree with what Armin's assessment is, although the concern that was raised is very true. It's very valid. I mean, the Mullah regime is looking to, with the assistance of the Chicoms and Putin and the North Koreans and everybody else, to increase their per month productive capability of solid fueled intermediate medium range ballistic missiles to 300 a month. 300 a month. The issue with that is solid fuel ballistic missiles you can launch just like that. You don't need to fuel them. They're the time it takes for you to set it up and launch it and then reset, like reload the launcher, is a lot less than liquid fuel ballistic missiles. Again, Israel knows that, and they're like, "Yep, not going to die for your convenience." Mm-mm. So yeah, I mean, I just wanted to return to the point you made. I hate saying circle back because Saki adulterated it. I mean, like Armin, you're not wrong. Like, yeah.
Okay, thank you. You're muted.
The final question from chat is, what is stopping the IRGC from doing a Saddam and blowing up Iran's oil wells?
How does that? I don't even like when it comes to the mechanics of that. Like, how does that even work? Like, do you just oil it when you blow it up? Does that it doesn't blow up all the oil, right? It just shortly, it just temporarily reduces your ability to extract oil. Like, it's not like the oil, all of the oil is gone. There's so much of it underground. It's not like it's gonna. So I don't. I mean, here's what like. So I'm when it comes, I'm not an expert regarding the level of damage that that would cause, but and I don't want to basically spread messages regarding scaring people. I do believe that it is possible for the Islamic Republic to want to do serious. I have some like that's one example, but I have some other ideas in my mind regarding what the Islamic Republic might want to do that I don't want to share because I don't want to scare people. It is something that in Persian we say "zamin sukhta tahvil dadan," which means like scorched earth, like giving us, like if they think that they're falling, they might want to not leave anything, leave as little for us as possible, both in resources or human lives. That is something that we need to be concerned about. Maybe not as much, because if they had to bring in, so here are some reasons that we might not have to be worried about completely leaving us, basically trying to. I know there are some people within the Islamic Republic that if they think the Islamic Republic is falling, they want to basically take as much as possible with them, right? However, we have seen that within the Islamic Republic's armed forces, there has been a lot of refusal to follow command when it comes to shooting at people. That's why they had to bring proxy groups from outside. We have seen that they had to drug people to make them be able to shoot into crowds of innocent people. That suggests that maybe on normal conditions they would not be able to do that. Like mentally, they would not want to shoot into crowds of people. We saw that the Islamic Republic had to shoot at its own people to convince some of its own forces to shoot at people. We got an admission from some people within the regime itself that the Islamic Republic gets some people in plain clothes in the middle of the crowd and shoots its own armed forces and kills its own armed forces to motivate them to shoot back into the people. This also suggests that many people within the Islamic Republic wouldn't naturally just shoot into people. So that's encouraging to know. I mean, it's discouraging, like it's horrific to know that this is the Islamic Republic does, but it's also somewhat encouraging to know that they require convincing. Like it's not something that they naturally would want to do, right? So given that this is their armed forces, to me it suggests that among a lot of the other people within the regime, there are people who are horrified to learn that this is what the regime has done. I could almost guarantee it that as we're speaking, there are many people within the regime who have been horrified regarding what happened in early January, and they're just trying to figure out a way to quit the regime without getting caught. So this is why maybe waiting the time that is passing is not as harmful as a lot of people think. Maybe the regime is basically collapsing from the inside. This is why maybe instead of attacking now, waiting for the Islamic Republic to become weaker, more people running away, more people defecting will be a safer option so that the regime doesn't have the ability to cause a lot of damage when it falls. Like a slow fall is less dangerous than an immediate fall, maybe. This is why Princess of Pahlavi's attempt to create a framework where many people from the regime could communicate with him and create some sort of stability as soon as the Islamic Republic is falling and maybe stop some people from causing maximum damage at those key moments is going to be a key part of actually making sure that the transition happens without a lot of harm, right? We know that he has already more than 100,000 people from the regime secretly joining his side. It is a concern that we need to keep in mind. I just don't want to advertise it a lot because I don't want to discourage people from, continue to fight. Like Princess of Pahlavi has commanded us not to spread hope rather than anything that could demotivate people in our revolution. So that's why I'm like listing the things that is giving me hope, right? I said in on the live stream with Goldie that there is different Durka levels, right? So we have 10 out of 10 Durka, and then we have 6 out of 10 Durka people, right? So not just because somebody is Durka crazy Islamist, it's not 0 or 1. There are different levels, right? So at a 10 out of 10 Durka, 10 Durka out of 10 will have no problem. Give me a gun. You want me to shoot into these infidels, man, woman, and child? Okay, I'll do it. No problem. I'll feel proud. No guilty feelings at all. Let me do it. But then we might have like 6 out of 10 Durkas or 5 out of 10 Durkas. Like, this doesn't seem right. Like, I want to defend Islam. I want to defend the Islamic Republic, but this doesn't this doesn't this can't be right. So that's a 6 out of 10 Durka. So I think like sometimes the 10 out of 10 Durka needs to do something for the 6 out of 10 Durka to be able to convince them to shoot into people, but it seems like they're failing. That's why we got so many reports that during the massacre that was happening in early January by the Islamic regime against the people, they were calling their own family members, begging them, well, not begging them, saying that we have suitcases of US dollars here if you come and help us shoot at people. Like they were calling their own like cousins. They're like, we're to try to like, hey, I have USDs here, come here, shoot at people, and we will pay you. So the fact that the regime, like, I know that the regime has more, like, a lot of people, a lot of armed forces. The fact that they even had to call their own family members means that their understanding is that a lot of these armed forces would not be shooting at people. Why were they short staffed? Like the number of people that it takes to kill 50,000 Iranians is not that high. The fact that they're short staffed to me suggests that many of the armed forces of the Islamic Republic would not be willing to, even among IRGC. The Artesh was disarmed. And like we got reports, and here's another encouraging report actually. A lot of people from Iran are saying that right before the protest, the Artesh was disarmed. So to me, this suggests that the Islamic Republic is afraid of the Artesh. Why would they disarm the Artesh? So that's a huge positive sign in our favor that a lot of Iranians are angry for why the Artesh was not defending the people when the Islamic regime was massacring them. So where were they? So that's the negative, but the positive is like, well, they didn't have weapons; they were disarmed, right? So that's another good sign. So yeah, somebody in the last thing, somebody in the chat saying because the Artesh would likely refuse. Yeah, but if they refuse, you don't need to disarm them. If you have disarmed them, you're worried that they go beyond refusing order. they will also might use their weapons to defend the people. That would be the only reason why you would disarm them.
Okay, next we have Payman.
Actually, I really want to bake my words, so I pass on. Thank you.
Okay, so that is the end of our list. We do have a question for post. So Armin, is there anything that you would? Oh, never mind. MD.
And just let me reduce the speed of.
MD, we have very low audio. I don't even know
Yes,
if you're.
I know.
Oh, go.
It's okay now.
Okay, go.
Yes, yeah. The
Yes.
fan speed was very high because my computer is.
Okay, it's
getting
okay.
old.
Just go.
Anyway,
Just ask your question. Yeah.
yeah, I just wanted to add something because I read a lot of messages regarding the food shortage in Iran. As long as I know, the army said enough, but I just want to add something. There is no food shortage in Iran, but the problem is the price of food. And that's part of the problem is the price in Iran fluctuate a lot. That's one of the reasons. But fortunately, at the moment, we don't have any shortage of food. And also the other,
But 1 second, MD. That's the same thing. You know, when you say there's no problem with food shortages, it's the price of food being high. Okay, so when supply is lower, price goes higher. So high prices are basically another way of saying low supply.
Well, because most of, for example, rice, in Iran, they import rice from abroad because they pay dollars for that. When the dollar goes up,
I
then the price
understand that, but when the dollar price goes up relative to the real, that means you could buy with the amount of money that you have, you could buy less rices, so it would be more expensive. But that's the same thing as saying there's less supply available with the purchasing power that you have. So high price and low supply are basically the same side, the two sides of the same coin.
That was one of my concern about the food shortage, which I asked some of my families and relatives, and they said there is everything, but the big problem is just you can't buy what you used to buy a month ago, not now at the same price.
When you can't buy it, that means there's less of it. So what you see in the storefront is not the same thing as what you see in the storage area, right? What you see in the storefront is like 1% of what's in the storage area. Obviously, if the storage area becomes half of what there used to be, what they put in the storefront is not going to change. Okay, so let's say, for example, you had this item, 1,000 of this item, and in your storefront, you always put like 10 of it to demonstrate what you have, right? Now in your storage, instead of 1,000, you have 200. But in your storefront, you're out of the 200, you're still going to put that 10. You're not going to put like 2, you're still going to put that 10. So the person who goes out and looks at what's available, they're going to see the same thing, but they're going to see different prices because the person who's setting the prices has to set the prices based on how much supply he has available in the storage. For example, I'm simplifying this, right? So visibly, you're not going to when there's less supply. When you go into the stores, visibly, you're not going to see anything different. You're only going to notice the prices increasing, and the price reflects the lower supply because it's the same thing as saying my purchasing power has decreased. Because if there's less real,
yeah, the purchasing power of people is decreased. Actually, just I wanted to mention that, but it's not. The perspective people have here or all people around the world is not the same as Venezuela, which people really couldn't find any and they were starving. But it's not the same. I'm not defending the Islamic Republic, you know me. I'm not saying that.
I know, but like this is
Just
econ. Like I'm just trying to teach you econ. I'm not telling you that you're defending the Islamic Republic, of course. I'm just basically explaining econ 101, right? So when you say people have less purchasing power, that means there will be less supply of goods because nobody's going to produce goods that people are not going to buy. Like obviously, if people can buy less, there will be less production, so there will be less supply because nobody is going to produce something that is not going to be bought. So the supply is lower.
yes, but what I'm saying,
Anyways,
actually, as an
we're
Iranian,
turning this into an econ. Like I think people are going to okay. Make your point, and then we'll move on.
okay, I'm
Yeah.
just as an Iranian outside of Iran. When I saw the people's concerns regarding the food shortage in Iran, I just wanted to say thank you very much for your concern as an Iranian. And just I
Yes.
wanted to mention that fortunately, our people in Iran are not starving the majority yet, but hopefully we won't get there. And also, some people were asking about the Reza Pahlavi website, and I think if you want to have a good picture of what the Prince Reza Pahlavi has been actually preparing for the transition, the government and in the future of Iran. I think if you go to this website, you can find it, or just type Iran Prosperity Project. That's it. Thank you very much. Sorry, Armin, if
No, it's
if
okay.
you
It's okay.
misunderstood me. Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Right. Yeah, so just a summary is that we are experiencing food shortages in Iran because if you can't buy the food, that's basically the same as not having the food. And a lot of Iranians haven't. So, by the way, there's most of the Iranians who can't afford food are not even visible because not even visible to Iranians because they're too poor to even be recorded. But we can actually see based on data that I think last time I checked, like half of Iran is now below the poverty line. The main thing that so it's not just the amount of so when we talk about starvation, we're talking about calories, okay? But malnutrition sometimes comes before starvation. So because of technology these days, low calories usually doesn't become an issue because calories are easy to make. Malnutrition becomes a problem before starvation. Like because of modern technology, calories are available everywhere. People can afford to get enough calories even if they're very, very poor. But what they don't get is that they don't get the proper nutrition because they can't afford the food diversity, they can't afford fruits and meat and dairy. Even though they're eating stuff that fills them up, they're not getting the type of food required to stay healthy. And malnutrition and lower health standards causes more death than evil than even massacring people in the streets. The number of people who die because of health conditions, not having access to proper food, not having access to a good healthcare system is higher than the number of people the Islamic Republic kills in the streets of Iran. The number of people who die from air pollution because of lack of management of Iran's the type of oil, the type of fuel that they burn in Iran, the number of people who die from air pollution every year is higher than the number of people that Islamic Republic kills in Iran. The number of people who die in Iran because of car accidents, because of poor road conditions and low quality cars that the Islamic Republic produces, even those numbers are higher by themselves than the number of people that the Islamic Republic kills in the streets. So Iranian people are being killed in so many other ways than just being shot in the streets. And low food quality is one of them.
Okay, next we have payment.
Hello again. What I wanted to mention, as I work in national security in Sweden, so one of the things that we received a lot of jamming and spoofing from Russia in the Scandinavian countries. Probably when I have problem with internet or GPS or this kind of things was because of them. I don't know. I really don't know, but it happened, and we have.
Wait, is this a question?
No, it's
Oh.
a information.
All right, so say this, payment, but from now on, we're gonna leave the questions after the recording section. But let me make your point. But from now on, just remember this: the first section that we're recording, that we're leaving it for mostly for questions. But go on.
So that's all. But I don't know what I have to do more. But one of the thing, Armin, what is your what would you say to our Iranian people that actually, um, I was not here for 2-3 days, but
So let me know what your question is, Payman, and then we could talk about the context if you need after. So what's your question?
yeah, actually, I'm asking in this hard situation, what do you actually propose to
Okay.
Iranians to be stronger? Because
Oh,
Iranian regime, they started with a mental fight and this kind of things. So
right.
what we should do? Thank you.
Okay, so Iranians inside Iran or outside of Iran?
Inside and outside, both.
All right, so staying connected is very important, right? You get a lot of strength by supporting each other. So you need to have a fighter's mentality. One thing is avoid people who are just being sad and crying, and look for fighters who feel determined, that they're like, look for soldiers and try to surround yourself with other soldiers. And also, if you see anybody who is like being depressed and crying, encourage them to surround themselves with other people who have a fighter's attitude. I feel like make you feel like you're in a war and that you're going to be victorious, and just surround, like, stay connected with those type of people. This actually makes sense for both inside people, Iranians inside Iran and outside of Iran. If you're feeling depressed, if you go find another person who's feeling depressed and he's crying and you're crying, and then you're just going to go down that, that's very destructive. You're just going to be feeding on each other's misery and making yourself get stuck in that hole even deeper, right? So if you're feeling like that, just go find like, just try to identify other people who feel like, who make you feel like the damage is natural, like this is a war and it's expected for us to pay a heavy price, and that they are not backing down. And you basically, their strength is infectious. Like you just feel like you want to be more like them just because you're surrounded by them, right? And try to create groups like that, and just communicate with them and talk to them, meet with them, and try to get inspired by them. So you know how they say you are the 5 people who you spend the most time with. So if you want strength, then surround yourself with people who seem to have strength, and I think that would be the most effective way to achieve that result. What do you think, Payman?
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. And the good thing, Payman, is that we have a lot of those people right now, right? Like if you like a lot
Yeah,
of
actually,
Iranians are based.
we are in Greece, and I'm so
Yeah.
happy.
And by the way, thank you for everything you're doing. So you're being you're. I mean, now that we have all of these protests, for example, that Princess of Pahlavi is commanding us to go to, that's a really good way to meet people there, right? Just identify the people that you resonate with the most, and try to remain connected with them, right? Try to find
Right.
those people, and don't feel like, oh, I met that cool guy in the protest and now you don't know who he is and never meet with him again, right? These are people that, this is a really good opportunity for you to connect to people, exchange contact, and stay in touch with, and also maybe do projects with, like tell them, guys, we met during the protest, what can we do? Try to come up with a mission, try to make groups of 3 or 5 people who see eye to eye with each other, and maybe beyond just going to like, maybe like, okay, see you in the next protest, just hold each other accountable to, maybe next time get on the bus with each other, like organize it with each other, like, guys, we're getting this bus to go to that protest, do it together as a team. But also in between the protests, come up with something to keep you busy, right? So let's say you have a group of 5 people, who want to support the Iranian protests. They're like, guys, what can we do to advertise the next one, right? So what can we do to, like, can we help with posters? Can we help with, contacting other content creators with good audience and convince them to maybe show this poster on their show, right? Can we create a group of 3 or 5 people who goes and fact checks people on X and immediately call out their BS on X as soon as they post something that is retarded, right? Like, that's a, by the way, guys, this is a, like, very effective strategy that you could do when it comes to fighting the information warfare. Even if you don't have a big following, this is very effective, right? So if you are one of the first people who comments under someone's post, even if you don't have a following, that those first few posts might get more likes just because they were there first, right? So somebody significant posts something anti-Pahlavi or pro MEK or some other bullshit. If you're ready for them and you just go there and immediately point out why they're full of shit, even with 0 followers, because you're one of the first few posts there, when people click on that, the first people who see that post, they check the comments. Like, many people, as soon as they look at the post, they check the comments. Just because you were there fast, if they think like, oh my god, you showed this guy, it doesn't matter if you have a follower, that comment is going to get a lot of exposure. And this is how you could make a lot of difference without having a big following. So yeah, go on, Payman. You wanted to comment on that?
Armin John, could you please, because I get less information regarding the protests in Sweden. Normally they happen in Stockholm, but in Malmo or smaller city like Lund, actually we don't get those enough information that when it's gonna happen and where it is and this kind of things. And I really appreciate that if you and Goldie talk about it and people they know and also give us information, because you get more information so far, more than us. So it helps a lot for us whenever something is going to happen in, for example, let's say in Malmo.
Well, even if it's not happening in your city, you could move to, like, you could join the protest in the bigger cities so that they get bigger as well,
Exactly,
right? Yeah,
exactly.
okay.
Actually,
All
it
right.
happened because where I live, they are extremist, and they are extremist Muslim,
Okay.
and it's a worst place in Europe, actually, in Europe, in my
All right.
opinion, because I used to
Okay.
live
All right.
in.
So Payman,
Sorry,
make this last point, and then I'm gonna, because we're running out of time, and I saw 2 more people raise their
absolutely.
hands. So, but no, that's okay. But like, when, if your city is small and doesn't have any protests in favor of, like, freeing Iran, the one thing you could do is to try to find the Iranians inside your city, and, or like, make them aware of the protests in the bigger city and try to organize a trip, all of you together with each other, to that protest in that bigger city. So that's another thing you could be doing. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
actually, Armin,
last
I
point.
live. Yeah, Armin, I live in a big city in Malmo, in Sweden.
Oh, okay.
But just let us know where it's
Y-
gonna happen.
Every time, like, we do that on the show with Goldie, all we advertise all of them all of the time. Thank you, Payman. So I saw
Thank you. Love you.
BT. I saw 2 more people raise their hand.
So I only caught Johan. I didn't catch if there was one before that.
I
We've got 20 minutes left and about 5 others to go. So it's likely that we wouldn't get to either of those 2 hands, though
I
we
s-
will try.
I saw Ali before. Ali
Okay.
Sar.
So I already have Ali on the list. He
Oh,
is
okay.
third from next. So that works out. Before we move on to Arian, I just wanted to comment on your saying, our top 5 friends. It really is true. I've been spending way too much time talking to Nare. And when a woman cut me off in line today, I yelled, Pedar bakere. And so, yeah, it really does happen.
Okay, BT, you make these meetings a lot more fun. You do, and also Susie, whenever she opens, you and Susie, hi Susie, you guys make our gatherings a lot more fun. Thank you guys. All right, so who's next?
Arian?
Hello there. Can you all hear
arena.
me?
Yes.
Fantastic. Yeah, so hi everybody. Hi Armin. Armin, my question actually pertains to the political influence of diasporic Iranians following the prospective fall of the regime. So, in the event that this regime does fall, and we all hope it does, and we go through a transitional phase in Iran, I would like to know your perspective regarding how you think Iranians in Iran will take to the notion of diasporic Iranians trying to get a foothold and gain influence in the country's politics, particularly if some of them are at odds with the political sensibilities and proclivities of Iranians who are already living in Iran. So, for example, the idea that we tend to have more visible leftists among the diaspora's anti regime opposition compared to our compatriots back home. And I wonder this, particularly given that those in Iran would have also directly endured living under the repressions of the Islamic regime up to that point. And of course, that also extends to those who had lived through the current revolution and will have survived it, whilst many of their friends and family members hadn't. So, how will they feel about some ideological unaligned diasporic Iranians trying to influence or, just to be cynical, quote unquote, infiltrate the direction of the country?
Well, I mean, I don't know where you're getting the idea that Iranian diaspora is like more left leaning, because we have been constantly accused of the
No, I'm not
opposite.
saying that.
Oh,
I'm not saying they're left leaning at all, actually. But there
mm.
are. But what I'm saying is there's certainly some more fragmentation among diasporic Iranians compared to Iranians in Iran. There's no question that both the Gaman reports that we've had until now suggest that there's certainly a plurality in support of Reza Pahlavi. And in more recent weeks and months, we've seen visible and ostensible data coming out that the majority of Iranians seem to support Reza Pahlavi, whether it's for just for the transition or maybe further on for the monarchy as well. But nevertheless, there is still some small factions of the opposition that are left leaning. And I would say that there's probably far more left leaning individuals in the diaspora, visibly so, than in Iran itself, who seem to be more aligned to the idea of gravitating to Reza Pahlavi as their leader. So I'm just wondering whether this misalignment could cause problems in the future.
What I'm saying is a level of unity that we have never before between Iranians inside of Iran and outside of Iran.
Mhm.
So it's interesting because the poll that you're referring to suggested that the Iranians outside of Iran were more pro Pahlavi than Iranians
They
inside
are.
Iran. And
Oh,
yeah, but now, but
right. Yeah.
yeah, sorry, go on. You go on.
Yeah, sorry, I do apologize. No, the polls did suggest that the Iranian diaspora
Sorry.
more generally certainly supported Reza Pahlavi, and in terms of the plurality. With regards to
Okay.
methodological soundness, it's not so clear with regards to whether we can
Yep.
actually acquire accurate information from Iran. However, what we're now beginning to see from anecdotal information and video footage and footage coming out of Iran and data coming out of
Right.
Iran is that we're seeing a lot more alignment towards Reza Pahlavi in Iran based upon the
Yep.
extrapolation of this information